a seat at the table, but those going the places you know you can go and doing the things you know you can do. Now, we don't see this clubhouse divider with a stage on top and an audience down below. No, no, no. Instead, we look at this as the world's largest breakfast table. It's full of motivation, education, inspiration, and even a friendly competition with the positive intention of pushing your momentum in the right direction. Now, listen, if you ever miss a segment, you can go download the Who You Know Show podcast, subscribe, and listen anytime. So head on over to whoyouknow.show, grab the link, and subscribe. All right, well, I'm super excited today. We've got an amazing world changer with us, okay? Today we've got Coach JV. And Coach JV is a true warrior who's transformed his life from the depths of despair to a beacon of hope and empowerment. After a life-changing suicide attempt in 2006, JV discovered the transformative power of mindset and spirituality through The Secret. This pivotal moment set him on a path of self-discovery, leading him to break free from the corporate world and co-create the $1 Million Freedom Company, 3T Warrior Academy, which has empowered thousands to break free from limiting beliefs, achieve mindset mastery, and embark on a journey to freedom in health, wealth, and mindset. So, JV, thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited you're here, man. Welcome to the Who You Know Show.
Thank you, Trevor. I love the energy already, man. I'm smiling from ear to ear, man. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, I gotta bring it, you know. Even sometimes when you don't feel like bringing it, you just gotta bring it anyways. Today's actually one of those days for me where I felt a little bit low, but I'm like, you know what? I gotta show up. Gotta show up for the audience, gotta show up for myself. So I want to hear from you though. Let's go back. Okay. I want to hear about in 2006. You had a suicide attempt. Suicide actually runs in my family as well. No one's been successful, thank God. But my brother, my mother, it seems like almost every holiday there's something going on. So talk to me about that. What was going through your mind? What was happening in your life? Can you paint that picture for me? And before we get into some of where you are today, I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important to start there because we do have a mental health crisis in America specifically. And I think a lot of people, it's hard. I'll try to talk about it without being emotional. It's just hard because it involves my daughter who's 19 now, turning 20. She was 3 years old at the time. So just some stuff happened to me as a child that was pretty traumatic as a child. And I really internalized that. And so as I became an adult, unbeknownst to me now, having the coaching and understanding now, back then I didn't understand what it meant, but I was really looking for edification, from male figures in my life, trying to become something. Wasn't a good athlete, constantly got rejected over and over again. I remember ninth grade, I actually got rejected by this girl, asked out to dance. These little micro things that kept happening to me made me go external instead of internal to work on truly what was bothering me. And so I ended up serving in the military, went in the military, got out. And I just couldn't seem to fit in anywhere. And I just kept seeking for this external validation from the world. And I ended up getting into bodybuilding. And for once in my life, I felt accepted. I remember I did my first I was a chubby kid growing up, did my first bodybuilding show. And I walked out on stage. And I was that guy that probably shouldn't have done the show, but I was proud of myself. I transformed my body, had abs for the first time. And I remember walking out on stage, Trevor, and it was like there was 300 people in the audience, and they were giving me I didn't know, it was kind of like the courtesy clap, but that edification from people, I was like, wow. And I just got these chills in my body. I still get the chills when I talk about it. And right away, I was addicted to bodybuilding. And the reason why was for the wrong reasons. And it was because, well, number one, it gave me control of my life because I knew that it was up to me. It was my hard work and dedication that was going to transform my body. So number one, it made me feel like I was in control of my life because the amount of cardio I did, the deprivation around food, the exercise, but I also was getting the external validation that I didn't know that I was looking for. And so I started continuing bodybuilding. I was very healthy at first, got out of the military, clean cut guy. Went drinking with my buddies, typical stuff like that. Really, really clean cut, great citizen. Was in the military, served my country. Got out of the military to pursue bodybuilding and acting. And again, in acting, I got rejected, casting call after casting call. So this rejection kept coming up. And I didn't realize, and this has nothing, me and my father are great. There's nothing, it had to do with me wanting edification for my father, the broken little boy. Like my dad did everything he could. And it has nothing to do with my dad. It wasn't his fault. He was grinding, doing what he could to provide for our family. Parents are still married, great human being. But I wanted that edification. And so I was going through this process, started moving up in bodybuilding, became very addicted to bodybuilding. And so I started dabbling in steroids a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's performance enhancing. And then I got an injury on my leg, and the doctor prescribed me, it was around 2003, I got prescribed Vicodin.
Mm.
And I took the first pill, and I know exactly what underpass I was driving under on the freeway in Mesa, Arizona, and the feeling hit me. And it was like this euphoric, out of body, weird confidence. And then I went into a grocery store, and I was like, I had confidence. I was like, I felt different. And I was like, wow. So I forgot about the injury in my leg and the pain. I'm like, okay. So the next day, I was like, well, I'll take it again while I train. And so I started taking it while I train. If anybody's ever experienced opiate addiction within their family, it starts out as, a functional thing. And then I started taking one pill. And back then it was an epidemic. They were just prescribing it. There was like these pain clinics and all that stuff. So it started out as a controlled addiction, was taking it for the pain. And then it was very easy to access back then. So I started taking one pill, two pill, and then I started taking it to wake up, to go to sleep. And then I started taking it to feel normal. And then it went to 20 pills a day. And then
Oh my God.
somebody introduced me to, in 2006, which was the shift, they introduced me to a drug called Nubane, which is pretty popular in the bodybuilding space. And it's like a synthetic, it has the same addictive qualities as heroin. And I remember when the guy handed it to me on the black market, he was like, once you go with this, you're never going to turn back. But I was so addicted to the drugs that I took it. And from 2006 beginning, so I had my daughter was turning 3 at that moment. It was like, I had completely lost control of my life. I had a bodybuilding company, I had all this stuff going on. And in July 2006, I had about $60,000 in my bank account. And this is how high I was from July all the way to December. Um, by December 18th, 2006, I'm dragging my daughter into, I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys, because I think that it's a Cinderella story now, which is, it's easier to talk about, because I was not a good person. I was not a good father. I was a horrible person. My daughter's being dragged into, at that point you're going to, crack houses to buy whatever you can to get high. And in December 2006, I went to Walmart to buy Christmas presents for her, and my card declined. And then I was like, wait a minute. I remember having 60,000. I was so high for 6 months. I was like, wait, man, I always have money in my bank account. Did it again, all my business cards. And I sat in front of a banker, and I went to the bank, and he turned the screen to me. I'd never seen an overdraft account before, red all the way down the screen. And my ears started ringing. And it was like, and before, if anybody's ever been deep on opiates, or you kind of go into psychosis where, you're just not a normal person. It's very demonic. It's very dark. And my ears started ringing. The manager came over. It was like, you're broke, man. And I'm like, and I knew the gig was up. I was a functional drug addict. I was trying to run a business. Unbeknownst to me, my business was going under. All my accounts were negative. And I went to my office, and I didn't want my parents to find me on the floor in my office, so I blew up a blow up bed, and I loaded up a bunch of syringes of Nubane, and I was like, Jose, if I can get this much in my body, hopefully I can end it. And the interesting thing about this is I never really had a spiritual connection. I never was introduced to God or Jesus Christ or anything like that. And for some reason, I knelt down and I prayed, and I said, "Dear God." I was thinking about my daughter, and I was thinking about my mom, and I was like, dear God, I didn't want it to be this way. This is not what I wanted for my life. I'm like, who am I talking to? I'd never prayed in my life. I'd never been introduced to prayer. And I started putting the needles in my arm, and I kept pulling them out and throwing them. I was trying to throw them as far as away from myself as I could. And then once I fell asleep, I thought I died. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you remember the Razor flip phones, that has the screen on the front, and it had that distinct ring. And I hear this ring, and I kind of come out of a slumber, and I'm super high. This is 48 hours later. And I stumble over to my office desk, and it says mom on the front of it, had the person's name, and I pick it up. And my mom, we're always very close, but during that time, our relationship was obviously pretty torn. I was stealing money from them, just a bad person. And I pick up the phone, and my mom's the most classy lady you've ever met. And she says, I don't know what the F is going on with you, but you need to read a book called The Secret. Your grandma just read this book, and she said you would love it. My mom had no idea that she'd woke me up from a attempted suicide. And so the book's over my right shoulder. So I immediately feverishly went into Barnes and Nobles. I'm still super high. Like, I'm like, what is going on? And the interesting thing, Trevor, is the first thought I had, believe it or not, was you can't even kill yourself, right? That's how negative my state of mind was. You can't even kill yourself, right? And so I get there and I get the book The Secret, and then they had that little DVD and you could slide it into your computer back then. And I sat there and I watched this and I'm like, oh my God, I created all of this. Everything I asked for, I got. I wanted to be somewhat famous in bodybuilding. This was a couple magazines. I had a big bodybuilding company. I wanted attention. I got all the attention in the world, but it was the wrong attention. It was from the wrong environment. So I was like, wait a minute. So I'm broke. I'm getting evicted from my apartment. Now a drug addict. I'm in my mind, I was a loser. And I said, I'm at rock bottom right now. So what if I just take what The Secret is saying and reverse engineer this? And I start doing I am affirmations. So I just started there. So, I mean, there's a long part of the story. I got evicted from my apartment, purposely homeless. My parents have been there for me the whole time. So I just started doing affirmations, man, from that point because I had nothing. I had no money. I had nothing left. And my life started to change pretty dramatically. So I'll pause there for a moment. So it just started with I am affirmations. I am powerful. I am strong. I am worthy. And I didn't believe it at first. I didn't believe it, but I did it so repetitively, which is a big part of my story. I did it so repetitively that I started to believe it actually.
Mm. Well, first of all, I want to just say that, thank you for sharing that. I know that I could hear the emotions, just as you were opening up about that. It actually brought out some emotions with me. There's actually a lot of commonalities and similarities in some of our story, actually. So I had a lot of trauma growing up, a lot of chaos, a lot of things going on. My father wasn't. When my parents split up, I went with my mom, and that's where a lot of the chaos was going on at. And my father was always there, but I didn't want him around because I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I didn't want discipline. I didn't want structure. I didn't want any kind of like framework. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted. And at my mom's, I could do that. And so I was running the streets and got in a lot of trouble and was in and out of jail as a juvenile and got into drugs and, was making a mess of my life. And I was actually forced by the court system to move with my father when I was 16. And that was a blessing in disguise. It was actually a really, really great thing. I always say it was my heavenly father sending me to see my earthly father. And so he helped to, kind of restructure some things. But I think that I was seeking validation because I was such a screw up early on in my life, and everybody told me I was not going to be anything. So were you saying you were kind of like seeking validation from the world, with the bodybuilding and trying to, prove yourself? Same for me. And so and as far as like the suicide stuff goes, again, that runs in my family, and I've always felt led to try to help. It's actually one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I see a lot of broken people. And so I want to inspire them. I want to lift them back up. I want to give them a hand up. I want to try to help people who are feeling hopeless, feeling worthless, feeling like there's no way out. And so I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Because it really hits home for me. Let's talk about The Secret some more. I want to hear. You said you reverse engineered it, and it sounds like you were the one commonality in all of your situations, right? Like you kind of like, it sounds like to me that you finally started to take accountability. Like, hey, you know what? I brought all this to myself.
Yes.
Can you talk about accountability? Is that part of the book?
Oh yeah. Well, it's personal accountability in your own thoughts, right? In the beginning was the word was God, the word is good. It's a thought, right? It was a thought. We were thought in everything that we're experiencing. This microphone, this what we're on right now is all a thought, right? It's all creation. And so you brought up the I love what you said about your earthly father and your heavenly father. Like, I believe in God and Jesus Christ to the deepest level now. It's like, I didn't know that was the path I was going to be on 17 years later, but if people would I'll start here and then I'll back into accountability and what it meant for me. The secret is, if people really understood that God loves them no matter what, there is no separation. Doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter what walk of life you're coming from. If people would understand what God truly is, God is love, and God is embodied in all of us, and God loves you no matter where you are. And if we just look for edification from God versus our earthly fathers, then we would all be in great shape. And that's the whole path to awakening. And so that's where it started with me. So what I realized is the accountability was taking responsibility for my thoughts. So the first thing that I had to do was forgiveness. Like I had to look at the ecosystem that I grew up in and ask myself, am I going to continue to let the people that did the things they did to me control my life at 31 years old, or
Mm,
am I going to release it? So forgiveness was the first step. It was saying, I need to forgive these people, but it was for me. That's how I had to get through it. I was like, this is for me, it's not for them. So I was able to forgive the people, places, and things that caused that insecurity within me and I adopted it as an experience that I needed to go through to be able to get to this point within my life to survive this, to move forward. So I kind of created a new foundation. I said, you know what? I physically, mentally, and spiritually forgave them. And then I said, okay, then I had to forgive myself because I was a really bad father. I was stealing from people. I was not a good person.
mm,
So I had to gain forgiveness for myself. And then it became like this reset point. And so from that reset point, I was like, now I need to be accountable to myself. So first it started with my thoughts, right? I said, if God gives us the ability to think, after those thoughts, we can walk and act, and then we can control our emotions. If I can control these three things, then I can master my world, right? Not saying I'm God, but I can master the abilities that God gave me. So I started to master my thoughts. Next was my actions, my accountability to my actions, and next was my emotions. Now, my life, the first, man, holy cow, up until about 14 years, up until about 3 years ago, it's like this wave of energy. It was like, I'm in the secret, I'm excited, everything's going good. And then it would just completely unravel. It was like these massive waves of energy. But what I realized is that there's a lot of unwiring from my subconscious mind that had to go on. Even though I
mm,
forgave, even though I'm positive, just like you said, you're not feeling it today, right? And I think that's the issue with what we're experiencing and why people get pushed so far to suicide, because we see with social media right now is this perfection, right? We see the highlight reel.
yep.
People don't see that I had a fucking massive breakdown yesterday, complete meltdown
Mm,
yesterday, crying, like broke down. I mean, we have, there's a lot of business stuff going on. We have a compliance thing I'm meeting with today, pretty intense. And I had a complete meltdown yesterday. And I talk about that stuff in my academy because I don't want people to think, oh, JV's winning and he's 17 years later from a suicide. Man, there's still waves of energy every single day. So what I
mm,
realize is within the wave of energy, I have a responsibility to control my thoughts. It's the only thing that I can truly control.
mm,
The other thing that I control is my actions based on those thoughts. And I control my emotions based on the things that are happening outside of me. Because it doesn't mean like my thoughts and my actions is not here to manipulate other people. There's going to be other people within my paradigm, but I can control my emotions on the people within my paradigm, what they're causing. For example, if somebody comes to you and says, you're XYZ, or you're this, you're a bad employee, the question you ask yourself, is that true? If it's true, then you should respond. If it's not true, you should ask more questions, right? What we're doing is we're adopting this. And that happens with social now without you even doing anything. You see another guy or gal succeeding and you get this insecurity within yourself and you create this false reality and then your thoughts. So my point behind it is I took massive responsibility for my thoughts, but I had to forgive the old self to be able to create a new paradigm. But knowing that our subconscious is so deep that as we go through things, so I'm going through life and then all of a sudden a trigger comes up,
mm,
right? And then that emotion comes back, and then you just repeat the process. You say, where is that thought coming from? Okay. What can I do to remove that thought? And what can I do to move forward to get myself into a higher level of frequency? So it started with my thoughts,
mm.
and then I talk a lot about discipline and consistency in my academy. Motivation is fleeting. It's exciting, it's fun, but motivation. I mean, I get up super early to go to the gym. Everybody, I'm never motivated to go to the gym, man. Never, ever. It's discipline and consistency. So first, discipline and consistency with my thoughts. And then we'll maybe talk later about how I reverse engineer everything in my life now, from the end point of what I'm looking for, and then I backwards engineer everything down to my daily activities. So
Well, can we talk a little bit about the emotional side for just a
yes,
second? Like
please.
you were saying to change your emotions. So you were saying just yesterday you were going through kind of a breakdown and
Mhm,
you were crying and stuff like that. Like, and we go through that.
mhm,
It's life. Life
mhm,
hits you sometimes. So in those moments, what do you recommend for someone to do? I mean, what did you do yesterday? How are
mhm,
you
mhm.
reframing your emotions, or do you just need to feel it and get through it? Or like, what's some good practices there? Because I know for
Yeah.
myself, sometimes I know that it's like it's okay to feel human emotions. It's okay to like feel broken, but don't stay there. I don't want to pitch a
Mhm,
tent and stay. I want to move
Yeah.
forward as quickly as possible. I want to give myself even a timeline. Like, hey,
Mhm.
24 hours, and then tomorrow's a new day. For me, I know typically if I'm feeling really drained or my emotions are in a dump, I know I need rest. Something's
Mhm.
wrong with my energy, like you said, frequency,
Yep.
and so I know I need sleep.
Mhm.
And when I wake up, my mind is fresh. It's like I've
Yes.
started a new day, and my mindset has actually flipped. So I'm not like depressed or anxious or stressed. It's like brand new.
Yeah.
What are some things that you do, and what do you recommend
Dude. Yep.
to help with that emotional state?
Yes. I love what you said. It's like, so people, if your car, it's this way I explain it to people, and then I'll take it to a biblical term, which is pretty cool, like what Moses did, right? So, like, basically, when if you're driving I live in Mesa, Arizona. So if I'm driving down the road and my car starts to shake, we don't immediately blame the city of Mesa for the street. But as humans, we blame the outside. So if my
Mm,
car starts shaking, I immediately think something internally is wrong with my car, right? So I'm going to take it to a mechanic to diagnose what is actually happening with the car. But as humans, what we do is when we start to get out of alignment and out of vibrational frequency and we start to feel low and emotional enough to start crying, what we do is we blame the outside world instead of looking internally. So like Moses said, he parted the Red Sea, right? Maybe, who knows, maybe he opened up their mind. They go out into the desert. They free the slaves. They're not slaves anymore. They go out into the desert. It's us. They're out in the desert and then they lose faith. And then what happens? God in the Bible sends snakes to bite them. And God gave us
mm,
a sign. He said, take that snake, bronze it, put it on the cross, and face it. So you said a couple powerful things like, so there's a couple things. You can mask it and run from it, right? Or you can bronze it and face it. So what does that mean though?
mm,
Is facing it might mean you, so for example, I smiled when you said sleep. Like the night before, I couldn't sleep,
mm,
and so it was lack of sleep. I started to kind of get this twinge in my throat with allergies and stuff, so I wasn't feeling well. I didn't have enough sleep. Something triggered me in the morning with a business. Then this compliance thing came up and I was just overly tired, overly
mm,
emotional. And then I started picking fights with people within my life because I wanted people to feel the way that I felt. Like I feel like shit, and I want all of you in my paradigm to feel like shit because I want you to jump in the pool with me. But what I do is I surround myself with people that call me on my shit. We call it origin training. So I have very powerful people around me say, hey, listen, JB, what's the origin of this? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, what's the origin? Put it on this, put the snake on the cross and bronze it. What's the origin?
mm,
You didn't sleep last night. You're tired, dude. Like
mm,
that person triggered you on that conference call. Okay. So you're tired, you're triggered. The compliance thing, you're just making it a huge deal because you're tired and triggered. So what should we do? Like you said,
mm,
I got a really good night's sleep last night. And there's no problem, right? there's no there, and usually the things, 99% of the things, I don't know where they come up with these stats. I don't know how they figure this out, but 99% of the stuff we worry about doesn't even come true,
mm,
right? Because it's all coming internally. And so to kind of like frame that in a physical sense, like what will we do? So if you're really spinning out of control, it's stopping for a moment and asking yourself, what is the origin of why I'm spinning out of control? And it may be something rightfully like maybe you feel anxiety about your relationship or you feel like something weird is going on. Take it, bronze a snake, and go talk to the person.
mm.
Like stop and be like, hey, listen, what's up? Like I'm feeling this energy. Is something going on? Because you brought up a frequency and energy. We recap that. It's like, because if you think about this, like our soul comes into this etherical body. Our nervous system is our spine, right? It's our nervous system. It's all these electrical systems that can be then short circuit, just like a computer, just like a car. And what we do is we go to opiates, we go to alcohol, we
Mm.
go to all these outside sources to mask the problem instead of bronzing the snake and putting it on the cross.
Man, that's like it's powerful, you know? Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do all kinds of things. I mean, we go to maybe not even drugs, but maybe you go to Instagram.
Yeah.
Maybe you're
100%.
scrolling. Maybe, I think people are addicted to this device just as much as they are
Yeah.
drugs. They get the little quick dopamine hits
Yeah.
from the mobile device.
Yeah. Well, think about what you just said too. Like, think about how much is chill. Like, get ourselves like get a little bit of a get out of jail free card with this, but we also need to recognize this. Like back in the days, we had to go hunt for our food. We had
Mm,
to. So we had to. I love this guy Panda. He's a bodybuilding guy coach, but he says we had to fast, beast, then feast. So we had to go out of our cave or wherever we were. We had to go find our food, man. We had to go out and solve problems. And
Mm,
then we'd have to beast out to solve those problems and then feed our family. Right now, we have to do is wake up to an alarm, go to McDonald's and get our food, grab an energy drink for our energy. And like we're disconnecting ourselves from our nervous system
hmm.
over and over again. And everybody's like, there's a problem. There's no problem. Your system is broken. There is no problem. Now, I'm not saying clinically. I understand people need stuff clinically. What I'm
So
saying
we're
is,
we're soft,
but
is what you're saying. We're
we're
soft.
super soft, man.
We're super soft. No,
Yeah.
no, no. It's so true. Like
Yep.
I went to a Tony Robbins conference, and
Mhm.
he was going into the cycle of
Mm.
generational cycle, and he was saying that uh, good times create weak people,
Yes.
right? And so we've been in,
Mhm.
like you said, we got Uber Eats and we got
Yeah.
McDonald's, and like we just
Yep.
been living a really cush, right, kind of
Mhm.
existence. Even if you're poor in America, like you're kind of like better off than a lot of other places. Like so
Yes.
we're good times in creating weak people, and then
Mhm.
it goes into weak people create bad times, and then
Mhm.
bad times create strong people,
Yes.
right? So when you
Exactly.
go through adversity, it creates strength. When you go through
Mhm.
resilience creates strength, right? So uh bad times create strong people, and then it goes in a cycle again. So strong
Yes.
creates good, and it just
Yep. So you
it,
you that's really powerful. So like people always ask me, well, JV, well, how do you get yourself back to middle ground? So I create my own chaos within my life. So what I mean by that is it's
oh
controlled
snap.
chaos. So I get into an ice bath every single day.
Okay,
Every
okay.
single day. I do hit training every
Mm.
single day. I have a coach. It takes me through a brutal workout. I'm also what's a generator in human. So my body has to move. Like I'm a warrior, man. I have to move. So ice bath every day. And the thing I love about the ice bath, there's people that say it works, people say this. For me, I never ever wanna get in that ice bath, and it's that mental battle. Ever do I wanna get in there.
I
And
have
so
one. Okay, I
yeah,
built one out of a chest freezer, big
yeah,
chest
yeah, yeah.
freezer, and did all the stuff I had to do. And same here, man. Like anybody that does ice bath will tell you it
Mhm.
never gets better. You don't get
Ever.
used to, like, I mean, you always dread it. Like you're like, oh, this is
Yep,
gonna suck. And it does for
yep,
like 2 minutes, and then you're
yep.
good. How long can you stay in the ice bath? Just curious.
It's ego-wise, I could probably do 6 minutes, but I just go based on how my body feels, honestly, but I
Okay.
usually do about 2 to 3 minutes. I just do it based the other day, I was in such a low frequency, it was like my body was just it was like 1 minute and I was good, I just do it
Mm,
based on what my body needs. Like, that's one thing that for me, it helps me control my ego because my ego actually got me in trouble when we went to Wim Hof's one of his weekend trainings in San Francisco, and it's a funny story, man. One of my buddies, Jeremy Midak, we call him, he runs Reconnect. He's an ice bath coach, breathing coach. We went to the Wim Hof thing, and I used to have a massive ego, man. And it's like it's been tamed quite a bit. And so I use my ego for the proper things, for for fighting for my family, things like that. But I've been able to tame it, and this is how it got tamed. We're getting ready for the Wim Hof training. He's like, you've been doing your ice baths, right? And I was building this actual facility next door. And so I was, in it. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing my cold water. Yeah. He's like, are you sure, dude? Because we're doing it with Wim Hof. And I'm like, no, I got this, man. I got this. And I'm like, dude, I got it. I'm a warrior, man. So I didn't train at all. We get there and there's like 300 people in this huge auditorium. They have all these ice baths out there, and you get in at groups. And I got in, and my ego, I stayed in the ice bath because these people in training, they're in there, and I stayed in, and I literally started. It was so embarrassing, brother. I started shaking so hard, it was shaking the whole ice bath. There was a bunch of people in one big pool, right? And they had to drag me out, and I could not get my body to warm up, and it
How
was
long
all
were you in it?
I don't know how long we were in, to be honest with you, because I
Dude.
tried to stay with them. It wasn't even that long, to be honest with you. It was my ego, man, because I didn't
Hmm.
prepare. So my ego thought I could do it. My ego, that's what's cool about ice bath, or I travel to Peru every single year, and there's things that I do that really test my will and my intentions of why I'm doing things. And that's
Mm,
something that's really important. I think we need that within our life now. You said it. We're soft as F, man. We are
yeah.
so soft. And it's like, and then I have a 19-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and I'm training my son to be a warrior, man. This kid is I and I two things. Number one is I don't ever want my son to ever want edification from me. He knows who his father is. We just
Mm,
had this conversation a week ago. He knows who his father is. It's God. I'm his earth. I love what you just said. I'm going to explain that to him. Thank you for that. I'm going to tell him I'm his earthly father. That is his true father. He
Mm.
never needs edification from me, but well, I'm his earthly father. We're going to learn some shit, right? We're going to go through some shit. And my daughter's a beast, man. It's so cool. Like, and I want to encourage all men out there around divine masculinity. You know, my daughter has trouble finding the right guy because she compares guys to me. She's like, she compares every guy she goes out with or dates, and she hasn't had a boyfriend yet. She's like, Dad, I compare all, I court my daughter on a monthly basis. I take her on a daddy daughter date. I court her. I teach her how she be treated, how to stand for on her own 2 feet. Not this, not this I'm just gonna say it, not this weird, I don't need you, independent thing. It's like it's a mutual divine feminine, divine masculine, right? We need each other, right? And teaching her how to be somewhat independent, when she is independent, and also how to rely on a divine masculine man if she needs
I
that.
agree with that. I agree with
So,
that. Let me tell you something. So, we some of this some of this stuff you hear going on out there where it's like, I don't need no man or this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. It's like, no, we were created for each other. We
absolutely.
are incomplete.
Mhm.
I will be first to admit I'm incomplete right now. I'm actually
100%.
single right now. I'm incomplete. Okay. Now I want to be the best version I can be of me, right? But I'm
Yes.
incomplete. I'm not complete until I find my partner. Like that's
Mm.
just the way I truly believe. I need,
Yes.
we were created, God created Adam and saw
Mm.
that he was incomplete.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yes.
so hence poof, here comes Eve, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so anyway, like we do need each other,
Yeah.
and that masculine and that feminine energy,
Yep.
they balance each other out, and we're meant to support each other and help each other grow and all that kind of stuff. And so I just
Yes.
think that there's this culture right now of divisiveness on every
Yeah.
front. They're trying to
On purpose, man.
destroy
Mhm.
the family unit, and
Yep.
so they've got men and women kind of like going
Yeah.
at each other. I
Yeah.
see these other podcasts. I actually had to literally cut them off. It was taking over my news feed. Literally, it was taking over my news feed. Was Fresh and Fit podcast, and it's this really really misogynistic guy,
Mm.
and he brings on like OnlyFans girls and prostitutes and things like that to
Yeah.
basically demean them and make them like, I don't know, like to
Sure.
validate his points.
Yeah.
And anyways, it's just men and women going back and forth, and basically
Yeah.
I looked at it like, man, you know what, this is clickbait. They're trying to get you in with
Mhm.
clickbait, and some of the arguments are very they do reel you in. So they
Of
started reeling
course.
me in. It started reeling me in.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
started listening to this because it was entertaining, actually,
Mhm.
watching these crazy conversations
Yeah.
happening. Right.
It,
But then I started going, you know what? This is like not good for my mind. I don't need to be
mm,
feeding myself this. This is
yeah.
garbage. This is the
Mm,
lowest of the low on both sides of the spectrum.
mhm.
And I don't need to feed my mind that. So I totally
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm getting this out of here, you
Good
know?
for you.
But anyway, it's just kind of interesting because I see that a lot in our society right now, that the
Yeah.
family unit's under attack, and
Yeah.
it's
That's where the devil. Well, where does the devil attack? The family to build to break apart the church, right? And the church is what is religion? Religion is a relationship where two or more are gathered. It's church. It's simple. It's not. It doesn't mean you have to go to. And I'm not bashing any religion. You don't have to go to a building where if two brothers are together, two sisters, or a group of people are here talking. You're saying we're talking about Father, our Father God. That's
mm,
church, man. It's not this like we can go down that rabbit hole. It's like we're experiencing the Roman days in America. They
yes,
demasculized the men. It was like I think it was 500 years before the foreign adversary started, or maybe 50 years. I might get the time wrong. Sorry, but a foreign adversary came in and started demasculizing the men. They got them drunk in the Coliseum. Like everybody was so worried about Taylor Swift in the suit. I could not believe that shit. I was like, so I always tell, and I always offend a lot of men when I say this. Like, I don't wear another man's name on my jersey, man. I'm wearing my name on my jersey. God is the president, CEO, and Jesus is my running mate, or I'm his running mate. Let me not disrespect him. And when I said, I don't mean that with disrespect, but when a man is, and it says biblically too, like a man should, that's why it says in the Bible, do not spread your seed. A man, so I teach, I'll speak about me personally. I'm teaching my son, he's a young man, he's 8 years old, that he cannot be with a woman until he's able to take care of himself. And if he can't, if he can't do his own laundry and understand how to take care of a house and pay his own bills, he should never sleep with a woman and bring a kid into the life. And now I'm speaking to my old self, because
Mm.
that I was a slut. Look at what I did to my daughter. I destroyed my poor little beautiful daughter. She's an amazing human now. She's gone through all this with me. Like we're in a great place. But think about what a shitbag I was, dude. I was spreading my seed, and thank God I did, because I had both my daughter and my son. But here I am, the first 3 years of her life, her subconscious mind programming, I'm a piece of shit, dragging her through crack houses. So I'm like, so I've forgiven myself for that. But damn well would I not pass that on to my kids. I will not pass that on to my kids or my son. And teaching my son, like, biblically at a very spiritual level, that he is a man and he's here to protect and provide. And at 8 years old, right? Him and his mom are not together, but I make sure that she has food, shelter, and everything she needs, because I want my son to see that no matter, even though we're not together, that she is provided for, because that's the example. And that's what, that I know what show you're talking about, man. And I think we're talking about the same show, where there was one episode where this dude was like, you should sleep with as many women as possible to try it out before you get married or something like. And I was like, what are
Oh
you
yeah, yeah.
telling these young?
He was talking about, in order, basically he was saying something about men need to have at least 50 body count to even know. Anyway, it's garbage.
Do you know?
This
Do you know
shows
what
this
he's
show's
teaching
garbage.
people? Like you're basically, like, energetically, every dude, every woman you sleep with, energetically, you're transferring DNA back and forth. So the trauma, especially women that are listening to this, like, that's how I taught I didn't teach her the bird and bees. I taught her DNA transfer. I was like, every guy you sleep with, you're transferring that DNA, that energy, that timeline, those genetics, all those things. I don't know if it be genetics, if that's the right word, but that's an energy transfer, man.
Mm,
That trauma. And I said, and I don't know if I polarized her, but she's, it's just real conversations, like birds and bees. It's like, come on, man, this is, the two become one and all these different things. And we're just in a very epic time, critical time right now in America, that men need to step the fuck up, man. Sorry, if I'm cussing on your podcast. Like, men need to step the f up, man. I'm like, it's ridiculous. It's like, we have to step up. And again, to what I say, the pandemic is fatherless children. And I'm
mm,
speaking to men's heart right now. If you have a child, I don't care what your relationship is with your ex, you have to provide for that child, man. You should be doing everything in your power to make sure that that mother can, she's working two jobs and you're out at the clubs. That's a problem.
mm.
If you have a child with her, I will face to face, soul to soul, eye to eye, talk to a man about this. Because I'm like, if your ex, even though you hate her, and she even if she cheated on you, it doesn't matter, dude. Like, you have a child with her, you should be providing safety and security as much as you can. If she's blocking you, do it through the court system. Drop off a freaking check at her door. Like, I'm very serious about that, because that's the pandemic, man. Fathers not taking care of their sons and daughters, man.
Yeah, it's too much of it. Absolutely too much of it. And, there's a lot of, too much divorce as well,
Yeah.
So, this is a pretty deep conversation. I
Yeah.
didn't know we were going to go this direction, but I love that. Like this, my podcast is very fluid. I like to just have a real conversation instead of a
Yeah.
scripted, formulated thing. But
Sure.
I do want to dive into a couple
Yeah.
things that you've done. You've transformed. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
you're in a much better place than you were.
Yeah.
Um, and you have this thing called the 3T Warrior Academy. But I want to almost even go back before that, because you were also in corporate world, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Weren't you like a vice president of a bank or something like that, major bank? What inspired you to leave corporate America to pursue entrepreneurship and create the 3T Academy?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, and then thank you for the deep conversation. Yeah, it's because it's all in relevance of what I'm doing now. Because it's like, so basically, when I left after my suicide, I started doing I am affirmations. Ended up getting a job as a banker, which doesn't make any sense other than what God wanted for me. I mean, I
Okay.
have dyslexia. I never was in banking. I ended up getting. And this is cool part of the story, is that I was focused on a vision of freedom. I was like, I really just
Uh,
want a house for my family. Anyways, one of the mentors called me that was helping me out, said, "Hey, listen, I want you to interview for this job." So I ended up interviewing for a job for a banker position. And at the end of the interview, I paid 50 cents at the Goodwill for a suit to go there. I had no money, man. And the lady, I said to her at the end, and this is important to the story, I said, if you just give me a job, I will clean the toilets. I just need an opportunity. And I drove away. And 15 minutes later, she called me and she said, "We're going to hire you." And I was like, "Okay, what am I?" I'm thinking janitor, something. She was like, "We're going to hire you as a banker." And I
Let's
said, "A
go.
banker?" And she's like,
Like, you're
"We
gonna
like."
trust me with the money?
Yeah. She's
Like,
like, "Yeah,
wait a
exactly."
minute.
She was like, "We like your energy." She said, "We like your
Oh,
energy." She said, "We can train you because you have the right energy." So they put me into banker training. Anyway, so I applied the secret subconscious mind programming, goal setting, consistency. I was waking up earlier than everybody else. I was setting goals. I showed up before the manager, and I quickly moved up to executive in like 2 months. It was like 2 months. 2 years, 7 months, 28 days. I became a VP at the bank, and I get invited to
wow. Hold
executive
on,
banking school.
hold on. I gotta stop and throw a mic on that. It's a mic drop. Okay. So what I want the audience to really
Yeah.
pick up from what he just said right there, got his foot in the door,
Mhm.
started kind of at the ground level,
Yep.
okay, but he treated it like what I want everybody to recognize. He treated it like he was the VP. He
100%.
he was treating it like he was the CEO of this bank. You know what I
I
mean?
think
Like and
so.
putting everything into it,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you're sweeping the floor or cleaning the toilets. Like if you treat the business as if it's your own
Yep.
and put the heart and soul into it, the people around you are going to recognize that and you will be elevated. And
Yes.
so that's exactly what happened to you. And
Mhm.
I just love that you shared that story because I think there's a huge lesson in that.
Mhm.
um, I think back on my own journey when I was in the auto industry, had I worked like that, like I owned the place,
Mm.
you know, um, and treated it better, right? The grass isn't always greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
so I love that you said that. I
yeah.
think that's amazing. But go ahead, tell me more about the
Yeah.
story.
So that was I just realized that the only thing I had, I didn't have more education than these people. I didn't have more talent than these people. What I did have was the ability to control my thoughts and my actions. So like I said, like I'm not this is people can confirm these stories. Like I would sweep the floors, I'd make sure the branch was clean. I was sitting in the parking lot waiting for the manager. And he started to make me his top banker. And there was this like spot that you wanted right by the teller line, right? So I'm like, I want that spot. So what I would do is I would watch the behaviors of other people. For example, I noticed in March Madness, all the bankers would be looking under their desk. And I'm like, what's going on? They're all watching their freaking phones, watching March Madness. So I'm like, let's go. So every single opportunity I had, I would go stand up at the teller line and talk to every customer. I also reverse engineered that as well. I started helping every customer, not just the high value customers. I started helping my old self. So I would take the
Mm,
person whose bank account was overdrafted and sit them down and say, hey, what can we do to help you? So I started teaching them financial discipline, things like that. So anyway, so I moved up to VP. I got invited to CBA Executive Banking School, which is one of the most prestigious banking schools. So I end up we this is where the spiritual awakening happened. So now I'm in this paradigm where the Cinderella story, right? I got the 535i BMW, the big 15,000 square foot lot by a golf course, the casita, the big house, SUV, all this stuff, making $250,000 a year. And I'm just as broke as I was when I was making 30,000 a year because I just kept getting more stuff because again, edification.
mm,
I'm like, I'm trying to get the stuff because my dad's now, look how proud you're a banker now. Good job. And then I get to CBA Executive Banking School and we fly to Greenville, South Carolina, and we took over the campus Furman University every single summer. Bankers from all over the world, right? And I noticed something really interesting. And this isn't all of them, so I'm not putting a blanket on it, but there were so many of them were like, we're away from our families. We're all had families and kids, and we're all adults. There's like people are anywhere from 35 to 60 years old. I mean, you can become a CFO, CEO after this. And they were partying like rock stars every night. A lot of pill usage thing. And this isn't a blanket, but a lot of them. They're coming to class drunk every single morning. I'm like, don't you guys have families and kids? We're making $250,000, some making $1 million. I'm like, is your life that miserable at home that you're a caged animal that got released from a cage? And I'm like, what am I
mm,
getting involved in? So what I realized is there was something, a gap in them, but this campus was so effing beautiful. I'm like, wow. It's called Furman University. It was built by hand, by hands, by bricks 100 years ago. Bunch of people have been there, like famous people. And there was the guy working on the garden. And I was like, man, your garden is so beautiful, man. And he was like, I started talking to him about it's like a Mr. Miyagi story. And he was like, I said, dude, you just love what you do. He's like, man, I have the greatest life ever. He's like, I have everything I need. And that stuck. He's like, I have everything I need. This is a gardener, man. And he's like, yeah, I got a
Mm.
good family. He goes, look at my flowers, dude. Like, it's so beautiful. So,
Mm.
and then this is a liberal arts college. There was a Buddhist temple there, and you could climb up. You couldn't go inside of it, but I would sit there, and I was sitting there one day, and all of a sudden I got this sick feeling in my stomach, and it was like, I don't know where the voice came from. It's like, you have to leave banking. And I'm like,
Mm.
who the hell was that? And I'm like, it was like the voice that made me pray before I committed suicide. And I'm like, so then that's 2012. And then I go back, I'm moving up the ranks in banking, and I'm a VP now. And I could tell that we weren't providing financial education to our customers. We're just burying our customers in debt. We're giving them, a payday loans. We're not, our financial advisors are advising them on products and services and not even worrying about them afterwards. And, it just wasn't, it didn't feel good. And so again, energy, it stopped feeling good. And then I
Mm.
realized in 2017, I couldn't do it anymore. So I'm in this weird conundrum. I go from suicide to Cinderella story, right? In the world's eyes. And then here comes the edification. Well, when I leave, everybody's going to judge me. So I remember
Mm.
calling my mom and going, Mom, I'm leaving the bank. She's like, what? And she goes, you need to tell your dad. I'm like, I don't need to tell my dad anything. At that, I'm like, I don't need to tell any man in my life shit. I'm like, I'm leaving the bank. And I
Why'd you
did,
tell your mom?
because she's my best friend, dude. She's
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
and there's another story that I'll try to tell without crying about my mom, which got me to where I'm at today, this moment right here. And so I left the bank, and Trevor, it seemed like a great idea in the beginning. I had a bunch of money in my 401k, a bunch of money in my bank account. 2018, I launched my first program. I started a podcast, my book, my first program. Built it for 6 months, launched my first program in 2018, January. Fitness Mindset, the Warrior Academy. Guess how many people signed up?
In 6 months?
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Zero. And then I launched it again halfway through the year. Zero. I launched again in 2000, back into 2018. Zero. And so then I got an investor to come on board, and we built our facility here.
Wait,
And then
wait, hold on. Let's stop there. Hold on. Time out. So you had zero, you had a bunch of goose eggs. Pop,
bunch
pop,
of goose
pop.
eggs.
Bunch of goose
Yes.
eggs.
Yep.
Okay. And you got an investor involved?
Yes. And
Hold
guess
up.
what they said?
That's
We
a good
like-
sale right there. You're a good salesperson. What
We like your
energy? Oh, okay.
They believed in me.
They believed in you.
They believed in me and the idea. They just thought I
Dang.
was in the wrong vehicle.
That's
so
good,
basically-
man. That's good. That's
Yeah.
a great lesson in that.
They
Huge
believed
lesson in
in
that.
me. So they gave me I wanted 150K. They gave me 50K, which started this facility, which is our headquarters. Now we have this huge headquarters now. And so I started this facility, and I went all in, man. And now there's a lot of mistakes that I made, though. I was running in the business. I wasn't running the business. So I was in the business, and then I started getting into cryptocurrency. So now I'm in the same position. I'm in the business. I have cryptocurrency. I'm vertical in the business. So I'm trading time for money again. I'm broke. I'm literally, I don't make any more money if I don't trade more time. And then I actually went through Alex Hormozy's gym launch program. Now he's just blowing up now. So I
Yeah,
went through
he's
his gym launch
huge.
program, and I got to meet him personally. And this is before he was starting to explode then. I paid 16K for his program. Best program ever, man. I don't think he owns it anymore. I think he sold it. And what it taught me is I was running my businesses completely incorrectly. I was trading time for money, and I was hiring salespeople. So I flipped the model. So I became the head of the company and brought on trainers. And then from that point on, everything started to rapidly change, right? Income started rolling in. Our academy started to blow up. Then freaking COVID hits, dude. I'm getting divorced at this time. COVID hits, and they shut our freaking business down, dude. So here I am, like, I'm at this point, I have no money left, zero money left. So I have to move back in with my parents in 2019 into 2020. So here, think about this, man. My pop's looking at me. I told you so, man.
Oh,
You shouldn't have left the bank. You had 401k, you had all this stuff. And this is where it changed for me, Trevor. We had this argument. And my mom even said, this is when you became a man. We had this argument in his house, and I respect my dad 100%. This is nothing against my dad. He's just being a father, man. He loves me. That's the only thing. We had this argument right in front of I'm trying to cry. We had this argument right in front of my kids, man. I was like, my kids saw it. I was like, fuck. I was like, and I respect him. So I bit my tongue, grabbed my kids. I walked out of the house, and I was like, man, I have to come back. And they, thank you to them. Very thankful, because they gave us a place to live. I take my mom on a walk that night, and my mom, beautiful lady, dude, she had beautiful blue eyes. And I looked her in the eyes. We're halfway around the street, and I just stopped her. I said, Mom, I can't open my eyes and say this. I was like, our life will never fucking be the same after this moment. She's like, looked me in the eyes and said, I believe you. That's all I needed. She's like, I believe you. And in that moment, I drew a line in the sand, and I became more committed to the pain of change and staying the same. And I realized that I had to completely rewire my brain. So I devoted my life to rewiring my brain. all the understanding of how does money work, how does this system operate, who is God, who is Jesus Christ. And I devoted my life to it while I was broke on their couch. And then I started to put that on TikTok, and I started expressing exactly what I was doing. 100% authenticity. People were making fun of me so bad. They're like, this dude's on his couch telling us what he's doing. And I said, please just watch. I promise you guys, I'm going to build a 7-figure ecosystem. Then I'm going to build an 8-figure ecosystem. You can either, I always say, it's a freight train of success. You can get on and go for the ride of your life or get ran over by it. But you're going to get on the train at some point, because it wasn't about, Trevor, it was not about edification anymore. It was about my Father God, his belief in me, and following the principles of Jesus Christ. And that's all I started doing. So we went from broke on the parents' couch in 2020 to now where we're at 2024. 3T Warrior Academy, over 8,000 warriors worldwide. We have 9 companies within the we call it an ecosystem. We don't like calling them corporations, within the ecosystem. And now I'm financially free, spiritually free, mentally free. And this is what I do. I do podcasts now. I travel around the world. But I don't say that to brag. I tell the whole story so someone can see themselves in my story. It's possible,
Man,
and how it's possible.
1000%. Hold on, I'm going to stop
Yeah.
there because also the timeline of that. Okay, so here we are, 2024. This was 2020,
Mhm.
right? In a short amount of time, right?
Yep.
Like you've done some massive things in a short amount of time, right? And so it is possible. And
Yep.
even if somebody accomplished half of what you accomplished in
Mhm.
that amount of time, you know what I mean? Like,
But I think too, thank you for that. And I'm not, this isn't a pushback, but I always say, people are like, oh, it happened so short, but it was 17 years
sure,
of pressure cooker of,
not
because
overnight success for sure.
correct. And this was the thing. So by the time we blew up, I had posted 35,000 times on social media.
Oh,
By the
snap.
time we blew up, there was still, we only had 300 followers on YouTube. We had like 20 followers on TikTok. We had 300 on Instagram. And now total we have 2.2 million, and we get 500,000 views a day. And
So
we now
was it TikTok that really took off
TikTok.
for you first? TikTok took off. And so the
Yep.
timing of that, so you'd already been, putting in the reps. Okay. You've been
Nonstop.
putting in the reps, but then all of a sudden, what did you just get on TikTok
Yeah,
or
my
was it
daughter, man, my daughter, Raven, she's a beautiful soul. She's like, so imagine my poor daughter,
crazy?
right? I take her through crack houses until she's 3 years old. Then at 16, she's going into high school. We get ripped out of our house and we move back in with my parents. She's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" Right? So the 16-year-old girl now is back in grandma and grandpa's house where I'm sleeping on the couch. And so our relationship was a kind of it was just weird, right? She said, so she's like, "Dad, let's," so we like to, she's like, "Let's do some fun TikTok videos together." So we did. And we started laughing. I'm like, dude, I'm at this point, whatever, dude. I'm on my parents' couch. I believe in myself. Nobody else believes in me. Me and my daughter started doing funny TikToks, and my mom got involved in it. And then I was like, what if I just take this stuff and I put, because I knew what I was going to do. And I'm like, what if I just, it's kind of embarrassing, but what if I just authentically show people what I'm about to do? So what I did a YouTube video on this, but I started just following the Gary Vay strategy, and I started flipping free stuff. And I took the free stuff and I put it into crypto, and then crypto exploded. So I turned $10 into 20, 20 into 100, 100 into 10,000, and then not 110,000, but 10,000 into 6 figures. And then I built my ecosystem of my diversification strategy based on, I was a single dude. I was not effing around, dude. I was studying. The library's free. So everybody's like, oh, well, I can't hire a mentor. The library, there is thousands of free books.
Mhm.
I studied The Richest Man in Babylon, Intelligent Investor. I started studying Robert Kiyosaki's models. I started
Mhm.
studying, everything, a little bit of Dave Ramsey and mixed. I'm like, okay, how can I take this crypto, this funny fake internet money, just like our fiat system, and how can I turn it into something tangible? And so I think the lesson in this for people is that just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
Just keep moving forward. What happens is we don't see success, so we change the game. And that
Mhm.
goes into my reverse engineering. So what I want for Trevor, what I want for my people, and it's in a flag inside of our gym. I want freedom for every single human being that comes in contact with me. I said that in 2019. Now, did I have that? No, I didn't even have financial freedom. Now, the ecosystem I have an insurance company where we're one of the fastest growing insurance companies. We have 140 agents now. So I'm able to help tons of people with financial freedom. We have 27 team members in our Warrior Academy. We have 32 companies that have been created. I don't have equity in all of them, but within our ecosystem, we have people all over the world freeing themselves. So what I did was this is really important to listeners. I connected, as Dr. Joe Dispenza, I connected to the feeling of what I wanted. and I step in faith every day, and the things that are being presented is based on the feeling that I want. And
Mm.
sometimes it's not good. Sometimes the things that are being presented to me, it's like it's directing me in the right direction. So instead of trying, so like say if something falls apart, right? We had a couple businesses that fell apart. It was because that wasn't in true intentions of freedom for my people. And another
Mm.
thing too is principles. It's really important. And 2 years ago, I read not sorry, Ray Dalio's book Principles, the one where it talks about developing personal principles. When I developed personal principles, it changed everything for me. For business, it's integrity, honesty, and uncompromising belief in God. Within our business, you must operate in integrity, honesty, and you can believe what you want, but really believe it. Like, for example, I believe in God. My CFO is Buddhist. He can believe in whatever he wants, but you cannot tell me not to believe in God. Or like in corporate, you can't talk about politics or religion. In our business, you talk about whatever you want. As long as you say what you mean, just don't say it mean. For my family, it's peace, freedom, and family structure. If anything disrupts my peace, freedom, or family structure, it's a hard no. And my
Mm.
team knows this. So if you schedule a meeting after 2 o'clock, it's a hard no. I don't care if it's a $10 million deal. I'm raising my kids. I'm with my
Mm.
kids. So those are some. I know I kind of went deep into that.
Mic
Yeah,
drop. No, I
yeah.
love it. No, that's so important to what you were just talking about, your values or your principles,
Mhm.
right? Faith, equality, service, and community are mine. Faith,
Love it.
equality, service, and community. Um, man, that's really, really good. I love how, you know, you said just by getting online with your daughter and playing around, it
Mhm.
started that way. It started as just, you two just having fun together,
Yep.
right? And then your TikTok blew up from there,
Mhm.
right? So how important was social media to your growth and your expansion and where you're at
Yeah.
today?
It is the number one thing. So we have a whole team. We have a social media team. We post 17 times a day across all platforms. All platforms. It is the most important. It's the new wave of business, man. You have to, like, if you're a business owner listening to this, if you we call it future proofing your business,
Mm,
whether it's so systems, processes, structure, social. You're not going to beat somebody who's not on social unless you have an established plumbing company or an AC company. But even those that are getting on social, so TikTok, and it's not even just TikTok, it's getting your content out there and not being afraid. Like, I put 17 pieces of content out a day. I don't care if you see my face. I don't care if you're annoyed. You can hit unfollow.
right.
Like, you can hit unfollow, and the people that are annoyed by you will never be your customers.
Mm,
People who are annoyed by you and your friends and family, they can hit unfollow. They'll never be your customers. And the people who complain the most are doing the least, and the people who are most scarce are the most broke.
wow.
That's what we realized.
Do you get any kind of trolls and haters over there on the TikTok?
It's intense, man. Intense. It's
But
not
that
that's
probably fuels the growth, actually. Those trolls and that hate, all of the comments,
yeah.
it's like the algorithms love that stuff, man.
It does. It gets nasty. And that was part of my little bit, just I'm gonna be brutally authentic right now. That was a little bit part of my breakdown yesterday, man. It was like
Really?
there's a group, but here's what my wise counsel, right? Called my partner and she's like, listen, JB, she's like, every single time we're about to F and explode, you get attacked.
Mm,
It's every time, Trevor, we go to the next level, which we're about to go. It's here. The explosion's here. Like we're it's like these 12-month, like it's every time. There's like, there'll be groups of people when you start to blow up on these social media platforms that
that
band together to try to take you out. So what my lesson in this is, you have to ask yourself this question. My partner always says to me, she's like, is it true? The answer is no. She goes, to say or I go, She goes, then let it go.
mm,
And she says, then let it go. And she goes, I understand that it still hurts to have people running your name through the mud, but she's like, let it go. So I love Joe Rogan's model. He says and I need to do more of this, being honest. I fall in and out of it. He post and he ghost,
mm.
right? He posts and he ghosts, right? He's just there to do his thing. And so I fall in and out of that, I'll be honest, because I actually enjoy, like, my feed is comics, funny videos. That's what my feed is, comics. It's like all entertainment. I love to laugh, man. Me and my daughter love to have fun. And so we watch TikTok, but it's like, people, they'll come at you. And like, I've had, it's weird shit, man, weird stuff. But
Well, social media is a double-edged sword, like
mhm,
like you said, you need it. It's a requirement for
yep,
business these days. Like if you don't
yep,
have it in your business, um, And I wish it wasn't that way, man. I honestly, as
I
much as
agree.
I enjoy, like I really enjoy these conversations, the
Yeah.
podcasting and all of that.
Yep.
But man, outside of this long form content, I wish I didn't have to do all the short form content and all the other
Right.
stuff that's required of business these days. I really, really
Yeah.
wish I didn't have to do that, even though I teach it and even though I show people,
Sure.
because it's a requirement. You have to, but I wish I didn't have to.
Can I say
You
something
know?
about, what's important about this and why this is really important? If you're truly doing what you love, so why I love doing what I do is because everything I post is what I'm already doing. So
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like, so I don't enjoy making a TikTok and doing all this stuff. I enjoy the content that I'm talking about. I don't like the uploading and all that stuff. I have a team that does a lot of stuff, but
Yep.
like if you guys watch my stuff, I do all my own content. Like we have this massive team now and stuff, but I still just pick up a phone and on my TikTok and on my if you look at my Instagram, I just film on my phone. There's no fancy edits. We don't do anything fancy. There's no fanciness to it, and we're exploding on Instagram, and I think that's where people get caught up because they see like the Alex Hermosis who are spending, and he's kind of going back to, like, everybody's going back to the original
Hmm.
authenticity, because he admits it. He spends like $70,000 a month on social, right, on producing and things like that. I may got the number wrong, but my
Yeah, it's
point
over
behind this,
polished, right? Like you
yeah,
can
yeah,
get, and then, so, like you said, some of those just super raw videos that, the camera's shaky, it's on your cell phone. It's not like, some of those,
it's the
um,
way, because what is everybody craving right now, Trevor? Authenticity.
mhm,
People don't trust the government. People are, they're polarizing left, people
mm,
just don't, they just want authenticity.
yep,
That's what's becoming polarizing. I think that's why people either love me or they hate me, because they think the authenticity is fake. And what they need to ask themselves is, what is it in me that they don't like in themselves? Because
mm,
you can peel back the curtain on me. I've told people I'm a drug addict. I told all the people this stuff on video. I've said the crazy shit I did. And it's going to come up someday because we're blowing up, with all the followers. Someone's going to find the crazy shit I did.
yeah.
I've already owned it.
Well,
So
and that's the thing. So, I heard this from Heather Monahan. I'm not sure if you know who she is, but she talked about the way to claim your shame is to shine a light on it, right? Shine a
yep.
light on it, and that way you own the narrative.
Yep.
The enemy doesn't own and control the narrative anymore because you shined light on it. You're like, hey, it's kind of like if you ever remember Eminem, 8 Mile, where
Oh
he's got that
yes.
rap battle,
Yeah.
and he basically
Tore him
he
apart.
goes over, he talks crap about
Yep.
himself.
And it's like, what's left?
Yeah,
Yep.
he's like, yeah, so what? I grew up in a trailer park and with my mom and this, that, and the other. And he's basically shining a light on his shame.
Mhm.
And then he throws the guy the mic and he says, tell him something else they don't know about me. Like tell him something.
Love it.
And the
Love
guy's
it.
like stumped. Like, I
Yep.
got nothing. You
Yep.
said it all. So to claim your shame, which is what you're doing,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yep. Because I mean, what, like, there's I have a great spiritual coach, and he said something. I just love God and love Jesus Christ. I don't prescribe to a religion, but I love all religions. I love all people, and like they call that hippy dippy, but I love God and love Jesus Christ. I love the story, whatever you call it, allegory, whatever it is. I love Jesus. So we're sitting out in the forest. We go out and spend a lot of time in nature. And I asked him one day, I just want to learn. I'm a student of life. And I said, who is God, man? And he's like, I said, who is God? And he looked me in the eyes, deep in my eyes, and he goes, you know who God is. And I was like, he just kept saying, he goes, you know who God is. And he said, let me ask you a question. Let me frame it with a question. He said, how does God know he, she is perfect? Because do you believe God is perfect? I said, yes. You know Jesus is perfect? Yes. How does God, so let's say it's Jesus, know that he is perfect, or he or she? And I said, he's like, you know God. He said, God would not know that he, or Jesus would know he's perfect if he embodied through you through imperfection. He came down through you to experience imperfection. And your job is to transmute that darkness back to the light, because we go back to God, perfection, every single time. So God comes through us in the body. It's in the Bible. It says we're made in the likeness image. He comes through us to experience imperfection. You said atom. He needed a negative, right? If you take it, maybe it's an ion, maybe it's a negative. He needed a negative and a positive. So the female, the two are the negative, the two become one to come into an experience, to experience imperfection. And what we do is we're chasing, like we focus on our imperfections when that is who we are. That's what we came here to be, is imperfect beings trying to figure this out, ascending back to the same place. And that's what
Mm,
God is. God is us. And look at where there's wars created over this, man. My God is better than yours. And God's like, hey, you're fighting each other, man. Like, it's you. And they're like, it's like Jesus is undefeated. They killed him.
Yeah.
They killed Jesus, and we cannot keep his name out of our mouth. He's undefeated. He's undefeated. Zero sum game, dude. Jesus wins and God wins 100% of the time. That's why it says in the Bible, God wins. No, that's so.
Let's go, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you being open about your faith on the show, and because I like to do that as well. And it's one of those things that especially in our culture today, right? They try to block that each and every way you go, right? Like it's it gets blocked. Okay. I remember, I think even Glenn Lundy was talking about this too, being shadow banned on different platforms for expressing faith and this, that, and the other. And it's just we live in a world where it's upside down right now. It's upside down. So
And they're
I
shadow banning
appreciate
them.
you sharing.
Yeah, they're shadow banning themselves, man. It's like when I realize who God is real. God is everything. God is like, it's like the breath of life. It's Yahweh. It's Yahweh. Yahweh. When you breathe, you're breathing God. It's Yahweh. He breathed us into life. He's thought leader. And it's like, and it's awakening right now. We're going through a transition where people are starting to, that's why we say, I love this conversation. I always tell people, Jesus is undefeated, man. I believe, so this is why I believe in Jesus Christ, many different ways. But if I went to every adult, 8 billion adults, 8 billion people in the world, I believe this would happen. If I went to every adult and said, have you heard of not do you believe in him? Have you heard of Jesus? I guarantee every adult would say yes. Why do you think that is? Because they know him. He's here. He's in your heart. Like, he's not. My great grandma was waiting for him to come out of the sky on a horse. My grandma was waiting for him to come out of the sky on a horse. My mom was waiting for him. And I'm like, yo, he's in my heart. Like, you can walk and talk and act like Jesus. 3 things: love God with all your heart, love humanity as you love God, treat others as you want to be treated, pull the log out of your eye before the straw out of your eye. You're good. And be around cool ass people and be a good person and use what God created to expand consciousness and not repeat it. Simple.
Man, let's
Not that
go.
difficult. It's not that difficult.
Let's go. And you're so right when you said that too about like, yeah, you've heard of him. Everybody's heard of him, right? Everybody, because he's in us, and whether you acknowledge it or not, right? Whether you claim to believe or you know what I mean. But everybody's heard, right?
Yeah. And why? Think about that. Why
Even
is
in
everybody?
But even like, hold on real quick, even in like some of the darkest places of the world, they talk about, some of the most remote places in the world, they have crazy stories about, knowing Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? Like where it's not like you know what I'm talking about. You've heard some of those
Everybody
stories.
knows, and also too, like I always ask people, why do you believe what you believe? Like, a lot of people don't realize his name is not Jesus, it's Yeshua. They changed his name to Jesus. J didn't even exist in the Bible when the Bible was written. And so that's important. Like, well, what I always ask people. So I go deep into this stuff because when people attack me on my belief system because I don't believe in a religion, and so I ask them when they attack me, this is what I say to them. I say, I love you, first of all. Number 2 is, why do you believe what you believe? And what they say to me, well, my pastor told me that. Well, why does your pastor believe what they believe? I'm actually reading the book and I'm taking the practical application and applying it to my life, right? Jesus said, cast your nets to the right of the boat. Okay. They were fishing on the left side. We have the left hemisphere of the brain, the right hemisphere of the brain. The right hemisphere of the brain is feminine. It's light, love, positivity, creation, brings things into life. The left hemisphere of the brain is carnal. It's anxiety, it's stress, it's porn, it's excessive video game playing, it's carnal. They were in their carnal mind on the wrong side of the boat. He simply says, cast your nets to the right. They caught 153 fish. 1 + 5 + 3 is 9. That's the number of God in the Bible, which is the highest level of consciousness. Jesus says, walk out on the water. Jesus is standing on the water. Jesus had ascended to the highest level of consciousness, heaven, heave up. He died at 33. You have 33 vertebrae within your body. I can go deep into this.
Man,
so
I'm loving it.
What they're explaining though, and so in the Bible, okay, so where was Jesus found? You have the north, and he was found in the east, right? The 3 wise men were looking for Jesus. They lost the star. They tell us astrology is evil, but they lost the star. So they go look in the still water. They see themselves, and they see the North Star. Jesus said, take no thought, go to the singular eye. This is a pineal gland. What do they work to do is calcify our pineal gland. And when you talk about this stuff, it's hippy dippy, right? Your pineal gland only activates in darkness. So when you're quiet in your closet, your thoughts, just like I thought right when I woke up from my suicide that I couldn't kill myself correctly, that's why my life was chaotic. Because when I closed my eyes, my pineal gland thought that I was a loser. So I reframed the thoughts when I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, my reality changed. That's what got me from my parents' couch to financial freedom. Because while I'm sitting on their couch, when I close my eyes in meditation, I saw myself in the house that I live in now. I saw myself traveling the world to Peru. And now I'm doing that because when I open my eyes, the physicality is a reflection of you. And so Moses went up and to the right. He saw God. Well, people argue with me. He saw God's back. Then he comes back down with tablets, right? Jacob saw God face to face. He called it pineal. He fell asleep on the rock, the sacrum, that's the bottom of your spine. He opened up his eyes in his dream and he saw a ladder going up and down the spine. There was a light and God was going up and down the ladder. Jesus was trying to teach us that we are made in the likeness and image. And if you just chill out, take a deep breath, stop picking sides, and get your shit together and become disciplined and consistent for a long enough period of time, you can all become ascended masters. I believe that's what he was teaching.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Man, I got to tell you, just having this conversation with you. First of all, I really enjoy it because I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, and one of the biggest lessons I'm learning right now is how I need to get myself deeper into the Word.
Mm.
Like that's what I'm learning right now. Just talking with you, I feel like, wow, you know what? I need to dive deeper. Okay, I need to dive
Yeah.
deeper myself, right? Because you've
Yeah.
obviously,
And I'm not some theologian. What I've done is I've taken what I do is I take when people judge. This is what I do when people judge me the way I talk about God and Jesus and consciousness. I think Bible is the greatest book ever written. It's the story of humanity. It's not a history book. It's not a fairy tale. It's the greatest book ever written. But what we do is, so I always tell people, I'm like, then why isn't the Bible continuing to be written if it's not it's the owner's manual for a human? That's what it
mm,
is. Right? Maybe Moses parted the Red Sea, but I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen that. Maybe snakes will come out of the sky. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe Jesus will come on a white horse, but he hasn't yet. But I have seen during a timeline like this, awakened people rise up and people that are in the lower frequency go down. You're seeing the polarization. They call it the rapture. You're seeing the you can see it yourself, right? The polarization of humanity. There's like this left and this polarizing right, and it's like everybody's picking sides and it's polarizing us. That is the rapture. It's a separation of consciousness, and everybody's looking outside themselves, and Jesus is like, yo, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm here with you, JV, in the crack house, and I'm waiting for you. I'm the prodigal son. I'm waiting for you to come back. And why did I pray right before I committed suicide? I had never been taught how to pray ever. Why? I've been asking myself that for 17 years. Why did I pray to
mm.
God when I was born Catholic. We went to church on Easter, funerals, and Christmas, and I thought Christmas was Santa Claus and Easter was the Easter Bunny. And
Man,
it's like,
and that's
you know,
wrong. That's wrong.
yeah,
First of all, let's talk about that. I don't
completely.
I don't care for the holidays, man. Like I don't care for the Easter Bunny. I don't care for Santa Claus. I don't care for all that stuff. It's so commercialized. It's actually takes away from the true meaning of these
Mhm. Yeah.
holidays. And I think it's like, the enemy trying to just distract people, especially with children. You're trying to treat, Easter, trying to teach them about what that means, the resurrection. And all of a sudden we got Easter bunny and eggs and this and that, and it's like all of
Yeah.
these things but the true meaning of what it's all about. And
Yeah.
let's make it playful and fun, and
So
we
you
got to,
brought up
so
something.
the kids can enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, like how about let's bring it back to what it really
Resurrection.
is.
Well, like think about that. It's the resurrection, right? Wouldn't that be a specific time? So why is it in March this year? It keeps moving.
Is it in March this year?
Yeah, it's in March this year.
No
Don't be
way, for
stuck.
real?
Yeah, it's in March this year,
No,
dude.
for real, for real.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's on. Look it up. It's like I think it's in March this year, and I'm like, wake up, humanity! Like,
Wait a
uh,
minute.
and
That
here's why it's in March, and I'm gonna probably upset some people. It's because the story of the Bible is the story of the cosmos, the story of the sun, the earth, the moon, and they tell us astrology is evil, but it's because it's the representation of where the moon and the cosmos are at during that time, during March. That's the resurrection.
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
says
not.
March 31st.
Yes. If wake up, people. Like his name is not Jesus either. If Jesus was walking around, if Yeshua was walking around, you went Jesus, he wouldn't even know who you're talking about. They used to say gods in the Bible. They removed the S from God because they wanted you to believe that you were not made in the likeness and image. It's not saying we are, like when people walk around like, oh my God, like that's, you want to watch out for that. But if you believe you're made in the likeness and the image of God, and you can, like, think about this. We're the only living organism that pays bills. Doesn't doesn't make any sense, dude.
Well,
We're
yeah,
the
that
only.
sucks.
Yeah, but why though? Because we have a carnal mind, and they realize the devil realized that he can control us through our carnal mind, and
Uh,
he made a system where if you have more money than me, you're more powerful than me, right? And so
mm,
we created, sorry about that, we created this emotional. It's just, it's all, once you realize, like, I became the richest man in the world, in my opinion, because I have everything I need. So when
mm.
I go to Peru
That
every single year, and go ahead,
that
Tyler.
statement, you said that earlier in the episode. You talked about that. I have everything
Yep,
I need. You said you
yep,
met that
yep, that guy, yep,
gardener or
yep,
something
yep,
like that, right? And
yep.
it reminded me of actually my father, my earthly father, because he
Mhm.
is so content. He's also a business owner, but he did
Yeah,
never like do the whole scaling thing. Like he just,
yeah.
he made enough to live and to be
Mhm.
comfortable and to be content. And he has this peace over him
Yes,
that I
yes.
always wanted. I've always
Yep.
really, really, really wanted that peace to be content. But I'm in this like growth mindset and hustle mindset and da da da. I gotta have more and more. I gotta grow, 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 grow. So
Yeah.
you're not
Yep.
when you're in that mindset, it's hard to be content.
Mm.
Like a content mindset and a
Yeah.
growth mindset, it's almost
Yeah.
contradictory. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can go deep to that because I broke free from that. It's like,
Hmm.
I love how Alex Hormozy says it. So, like, he's like, you don't need to have a freaking crazy morning routine to be successful, right? I do have a crazy morning routine, but my point behind this is, you look at Joe Rogan, Coach JV, Russell Brand, Tucker Carlson. I'm trying to think of people who are just blowing up. Andrew Tate. I'm just thinking of people who are going viral. They are going viral because they are who the F they say they are.
Mm,
That's the key. That's contentment. When you are who you say you are, and I'm not saying people aren't saying that, but when you're trying to grind and grab onto something, you're grabbing onto something that may not be yours.
mm,
When you grind and figure out who you are, it all comes to you. You go from going after life to pulling life to you. So now I'm just pulling life to me. So what I
mm.
do is I show up every single day. I have my pat. So this goes in my reverse engineering. So if I say I'm going to build a $10 million company, I reverse engineer it back into the daily activities that I need to do to get to the 10 million. It's that simple.
Right.
And so every single day I write down those things, but they have to be in alignment with my principles and who I truly am and my authenticity. Every single day I write down long term, midterm, short term. The short term bleeds into the long term. I do my I am affirmations, I do my ice bath, I do my HIIT training, and then I let everything else play itself out. That's why biblically he says, if I feed the
Mm.
birds, why wouldn't I feed you?
I
We
love
don't
that.
believe
I
we
love
don't
that.
believe it because we have a conscious mind.
How much
We're
more valuable are you than they? Talking about the birds, like I feed them.
right.
They don't. He says they don't work and they don't store in the barns, so they don't work or
Mm,
save,
yep.
and I feed
Yep.
them anyways. How much more
100%.
valuable are you
Yep.
than the birds?
And now
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't mean
we
good.
sit here and worry all the time. We're
Yeah.
worried about the future. We're worried about this, that, and the other, and it's like, to your point, none of that's in your control, anyways.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, the key is what you just said. We worry about our future, that you're a
Right.
manifestation expert. If you're worried about it, guess what you're going to get? But
Yeah.
if you know, you move from faith to knowing. Knowing is saying,
Mm,
I know for a fact that we will have $1 billion ecosystem. That's done. It's finished. It's done.
mm,
Now, people, when I say that, well, you're spiritual, you can't be spiritual and rich, that's a complete lie. And the thing they bring up in the Bible is they say, a camel can go through the, and I love this stuff. The camel can go through an eye of a needle, but a rich man, JV, can't go through the eye of a needle. Have you ever seen a camel go through the eye of a needle? Okay, let's explain that. So if you go a little bit deeper and understand why do you believe what you believe, what it means is the camels used to carry burdens on the back for the people. There was a bridge, I think it was a bridge called the Eye of the Needle. The camel would kneel down on its knees, like in prayer, and they would remove the burden from the camel's back and it would go under the eye of the needle. It wasn't a needle. So the rich man must know if his intentions are just money and yachts and houses, that's a burden on his back. Your
Mm,
dad removed the burden off of his back. He has everything he needs. So now he's the richest man in the world. Then you can go through the
mm,
eye of the needle. Well, how do you do that? You kneel down in faith and you pray to God, and you pray as if it's already been given. God does not like beggars. Please, everybody listen. God does not want you to beg, doesn't need you to go and tithe at a church and be like, oh, please, pastor, whatever your name is, please give me my car. He's like, go get a job, dude. Faith without works is foolish. Like what you say is, so what I say is, I put it on Twitter every day. Thank you, God. And people get so mad when I do this. I pray on Twitter every day. It's my own documentation of my own life, so my grandkids can see it. They archive all our tweets. That's the only reason I use these social media platforms. So I say, dear God, thank you so much for the abundance. I've already thanked him for the $1 billion. It's already done. Now I just have to show up every day.
mm,
That's good. That's when you go from grinding to being faithful in the things that you're doing. Doesn't mean you're not grinding. I still grind, just but it's more of life is coming to me.
mm.
But it doesn't mean it's sunshine and rainbows. I had a breakdown yesterday. And so I think that's like Alex Hormozy. He is doing what he loves so he can work 19 hours a day. Joe Rogan can work 24 hours a day. The dude's smoking weed and freaking drinking and meeting the coolest people in the world. You got Russell Brand who's meditating, hitting ice baths. Like and I'm just posting shit that I'd be doing anyways. And then like, for example, like people say grind culture. I like, in exactly 3 months from today, I'll be in Peru. I literally leave. People like you can't leave and go on vacation. I leave for 2 weeks twice a year, and I go to Peru and I shut everything off. I don't communicate with anybody for 2 weeks. I sit in a garden in Peru for 2 weeks. Every single year I do it. And
Wow.
my businesses run better. Because
Well, I like
because
what
there's
you were
no.
saying about, taking the burden off. Okay.
Mhm.
And and really what that is, like you were saying, is gratitude also that you have everything that you need,
Yes. Yep.
right? And even if you feel like you don't, for those, like, a big part of my audience is actually people that are going through career transitions.
It's a
Okay.
big transition.
Yep. And so they're out of income. A lot of them are out of income, right? And so they can feel like from a place of lack.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? And especially the longer the job search takes, the bank account's going, negative, right? It's going
Yep.
backwards. And so, it can also be like, how are you supposed to be grateful when you're having that going on? But
Mm.
what your point is, grateful that it's already done, like it's already
Yes.
finished, like they are going to get that new job. It is like, it's not a matter of uh if they're going to get a new job, it's when they get a new job. They
Yep.
will get a new job. It's coming. So
Yep.
grateful that it's already there and that God will provide. and
Yep.
and to the scripture, how much more valuable are you than the birds? Okay,
Yep.
like, and God feeds the birds, so he's going to feed you too. So just know that it's coming.
Mhm.
Okay. And to have gratitude for that.
Yep, and
Right.
work your ass off too. Like, don't everybody's like The Secret. I love The Secret, but the thing that there, it's like people like I created a vision board and I do I am affirmations and I'm waiting for my Lamborghini. Well, you need a job to get
Well,
the
what'd you do this morning besides
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
did my vision board because there's a lot of like there's this disillusion with like the,
Mm.
the the motivation community and the spiritual community and all this stuff and
Well,
like
that's faith
and
without works,
faith
right?
without works, man. And
It's dead.
everybody's like, too, like, I'm very, very spiritual. I guess I'd consider spiritual. People like, JV, how can you talk about money and be spiritual? I'm like, like, let that go, dude. Like that's why I break down those biblical verses. Because like it has nothing to do, like people are like pray in your closet. This is just my interpretation. They say, JV, they always get mad at me when I post on Twitter my prayers. And I'm like, I'm posting them every day, so keep getting mad. But they say you need to pray in your closet. Well, think about this for just a moment. Why do they say pray in your closet? Because when you go into your closet, Jesus said, take no thought. And he always talked about this middle ground and singular eye. The pineal gland is right here. The pine cone is right in front of the Vatican, guys. They put it, it's hidden in plain sight. Pine cone equals pineal gland. So they're hiding it in plain sight. You put stuff right here every single time. They tell you it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. And we think it's out here, out here. So you go into your closet. When you turn the lights off in your closet, it's dark. The pineal gland activates in darkness. So what's done in darkness comes to light. So if you pray to God and you sit with God in darkness, and you say, thank you, God, so much for the $1 billion ecosystem. And then you go into the intentions because I can see we'll have a fund for single mothers, the fathers that aren't stepping up. We're going to have our own schooling system. We're going to have all this stuff. We have the private plane, so we don't have to worry about waiting and security. Our family can can immediately move. It also provides jobs and food and shelter, because you buy a private plane, you're actually providing jobs for people. And you go through that, and then you open your eyes, and then you trust that everything you're doing beyond that is based on that goal. Because there's no other way to look at it. Because if you can think about it, it can be created.
Mm,
And your job is to remember that you're the creator.
mm.
That's your job. You have to peel back the subconscious mind programming from your parents, your grandparents, all the DNA, the people that came before us that made us believe that it's not possible. And whoever this person that flipped this on us, this elite group of 1% that keep making us think that it's not possible. It's like, how did I go from broke on my parents' couch to this year I'll be in the top 1% of earners, and within 2 years probably in the top 1%. What is it, net worth or whatever. It's possible.
Man.
It's because I lived what I'm doing right now. I lived it. Like we always say, I joke around. I'm like, I love Joe Rogan's podcast. I imagine every day and have an alarm that says, hey, Joe Rogan's team just reached out to you. Joe Rogan's team just reached out to you. I will be on his podcast someday. I just will be, because I've already talked to him. I've already been there, because I vibe with the dude. I'm like, man, I want to have a deep spiritual conversation with
I
this guy.
can't wait for that episode, man. It's
It's gonna be
happening. I can't
great.
wait for it. I
Yeah.
want you to send it to me, okay? So
Yeah.
I can tune in
Yeah.
seriously to that episode
Yeah.
for real, because I know it'll happen too. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now, like, I've really enjoyed our
Thank you.
conversation today. We've gone a little bit longer than I typically go, by about 30 minutes, but it's because I'm
Love it.
enjoying it so much. I literally I'm learning from you. So
Me too.
um
From you. Thank you.
before we wrap things up, though, because we are kind of running out of time here, are there anything right now, like, to help you reach that $1 billion ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
What do you have going on right now that we could maybe highlight or shine a light on, or what are some initiatives that you have going on right now?
Thank you. Yeah. So what we do is, our biggest thing is, I'll bring up our 3T Warrior Academy. It's kind of like the hub for everything we do. So we have what's called the 3T Warrior Academy. We provide financial literacy, financial education, teach people financial discipline, how to earn and how to protect that wealth. And that's our main ecosystem, and everything kind of bleeds out there from their insurance, our crypto apps and all that stuff. That would be helpful if you just check out the 3T Warrior Academy, or check out the thousands of hours of free content. So if you just type in Coach JV in Google, all my content will come up, and within the descriptions you'll find the free book. I wrote a free book that people can download. My goal is to help free as many people from the just over broke system. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a job, but what I'm saying is we have to get out of understanding being slaves to money, right?
Mhm.
Because when you become the president and CEO of your own life, and you understand money as your employee, it changes everything. It's that simple. And that's the flip that needs to happen with the middle class in America, or the middle class is moving down to the working poor. So that's what we do. We provide, and I do a lot of spiritual talks too. It's just me, like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know anything, which just made me the smartest man in the world. And I also have everything I need, which made me the richest man in the world. And I got some really powerful coaches that I'm working with, that they don't teach me shit. They just ask me powerful questions, Trevor, that just blow my mind. And so I talk a lot about that inside my academy. It's a lot of stuff I probably can't put on social, because they come ripping down my doors, whoever they are, but so.
Right. You get deplatformed, right? So,
Whatever that
but
means.
that's okay. You know what? Whatever.
Yep.
Because guess
Still gonna be
what?
smiling.
You'll have everything you need, right? You still have everything you need. So, man, again, this has been an awesome,
Thank you.
awesome conversation. I really enjoyed it. I do want to also let the audience know, where's the best place for them to connect with you. Would that be, let's say, would it be TikTok? Is that the best place for them to find?
Instagram, 100%. Yeah,
Instagram.
TikTok we get it's crazy. Like, we get thousands of messages on TikTok. Instagram, we're constantly monitoring those messages. So Instagram is the best way, Coach JB. It's more controlled on Instagram, and so it's easier messaging system too. So
yeah, I agree. TikTok doesn't have a very good system over there, So okay, cool. So guys, make sure you go follow him on Instagram, and let's do this. I would like for you to tell him what was your biggest takeaway. Okay, send him a message and say, what's your biggest takeaway? Because there was a ton in this. Like, I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to this episode, because there are so many golden nuggets. Like, there's a bunch. So I would like to know from you, what are your biggest golden nuggets? Send it to him in a DM. I would highly appreciate them. Appreciate that. And JV, you also have a a podcast of yourself, right? You have your own
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, the Coach JV podcast.
The Coach JV podcast. Y'all go check him out. Okay. Go check him out. I'm sure he's got amazing content over there too. Is it interview style or is it solo style or?
Just solo. I'm gonna get into the interview spot because I'm meeting awesome people like you, and I want to interview you guys. So I'm like, I just realized the power of this because like the last couple interviews I've done because this is new to me. But they're just 3 to 10 minute me just venting and motivating. That's it.
Okay. So you go check out his podcast too, right? Go check out his podcast too. Who knows? You may see my face over there one day. So, but JV, this has been awesome. Again, I really, really appreciate you. I would like to have you back on again at some point, right? Because again, this has been one of those episodes where I just feel like there's not enough time. Like I could continue talking to you forever. So, but hang tight one moment. Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye.